Welcome to this bonus episode of Talk Commerce, featuring Kalen, Jordan, and Brent Peterson. I'm aptly calling this the Kalen and Brent Show. This is the full recording of the episode that I did with Kalen that was about employee happiness. This includes such great conversations around it's a joke, how to pronounce espresso, of course our sponsor, Cricket Protein. We listen to Kalen doing some swearing, then Kalen reverses the table and starts to ask me all kinds of questions about exercising, which leads us to running, swimming, biking, skateboarding, and more. If you've seen the video version, you will see Kalen in his muscle shirt, which also stirred up some great conversations on Twitter. We learn a little bit about Kalen's week-long surfing lessons and his 3 months in Costa Rica, and then close it out with a love poem that Brent reads out loud, along with some of our favorite science fiction books. Enjoy this episode, this bonus episode of the Kalen and Brent Show. Hopefully, more to come. This episode of Talk Commerce is brought to you by Cricket Protein Bars. Crickets are one of the most common insects people consume. Insects like crickets are rich in nutrients, especially protein, and more sustainable than any other protein source such as Wagyu steaks or Costco hot dogs. Go to talkcommerce.com/cricket protein to learn more. This week's cricket tip: try substituting crickets, especially fried crickets, for peanut butter for anyone with a nut allergy. I can guarantee when they open up their sandwich and take their first bite, they're going to thank you. Crickets. They're what's for snacks. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there, man.
You're looking fit as a fiddle.
Thanks, dude. Sun's out, guns out. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, I can tell. Those are some good-sized guns you got. And you're in Texas.
Those are the rules. I don't make the rules.
You moved from California to Texas because of your arms, so you could be legal? I mean, in Minnesota, we don't have like a...
Yeah, those are street legal. Those are street legal in Minnesota, but
yeah,
I might run into some snags. How are you doing, man? What the heck? Where are you? Hawaii, Minnesota?
I'm in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, okay.
Yeah, as they say, as you try to board a plane somewhere.
I don't.
Never mind, it's a joke. Just ignore me for a while.
Dude, if we ever do our own podcast, never mind, it's a joke. That's the whole podcast
Oh
thing.
yeah, there you go.
How good is that?
Yes, sponsored
Right?
by somebody funny.
We'll figure it out. Cricket Protein Bars.
There you go.
My whole goal in life is to have a podcast with a Cricket Protein Bar as a sponsor.
Yeah, and those
I don't know why.
And those are actual crickets, right? That use the protein from actually grinding up the cricket powder. Yeah, that's good. It's gluten-free.
You know about that. Is it? Yeah. That makes sense.
There's no gluten in crickets.
Right.
Unless they've just eaten some fresh grain.
True. I'm actually, by the way, I'm using a gluten-free microphone right now. I don't know.
I can tell. Looks great.
Yeah. No,
yeah,
it's
mine is a
gluten-free.
paleo microphone.
Okay. It's non-GMO as well.
It is non-GMO. My microphone was grown in fields in North Dakota that had GMO products next to it. They blew the extra bits of microphone blew into the field and contaminated it. And that's why I have my stand, which is blue, and my microphone, which is, I believe, a Zoom.
Is that a GMO adjacent microphone? Because I can't do this.
I know. Sorry about that.
I can't have you on this esteemed podcast with that kind of a setup. That's absurd.
It is. I agree with you 100%. It's
Can we talk
disgusting.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the gigantic Big Commerce Partner Award behind you.
It's actually not an award. It's just that we're a partner with Big Commerce now because I'm on all kinds of Big Commerce calls, and they got sick of seeing the Magento stuff in the background. We did, in fact, we did get an award in 2021 from Big Commerce, but it was during the pandemic, and they never shipped them out. I'm going to call them out right now in this podcast that never got our award.
That's rough. They
did send me that in place.
That's the old partner award trickaroo. That's the oldest trick in the partner book.
We're gonna go heavily branding here.
I
What do you
like that.
think?
What is that? What is that hat that you got on there? I should have one of those here.
It's called a Hoofa.
Dang it. If I would have had that
Actually,
nearby,
no, I
that
got to
would've been
take
cool.
it off because it looked like a little kid with a hat on.
Yeah, that's the problem with hats. They can tend to do that, unfortunately.
All right, we're talking about some fun stuff today. You had some really good topics.
All sorts of topics, all sorts of fun stuff. We're going to go all over the map.
What is the name of your podcast this week, or is it a video series?
We're figuring it out as we go. And it will be revealed at the proper time. But
We are gonna remix, and it is also going to be a bonus episode on Talk Commerce.
perfect. Fantastic.
So we'll see. It'll be competing, and we should release it together, same week, same Apple Podcast stream.
You're going to compete with my own podcast.
All I can
with
do is
that
try to keep up
with that non-GMO microphone.
Yes. Yeah, but I do feel like on my stream, I'm going to put a bunch of beeps in just to cover up your swearing.
Oh, okay. Son of a burp.
Yep.
Burpity burp. Yeah, I do swear a lot these days. Just not on podcasts.
You're in Texas. You have to.
It's a lot to swear about, including employee culture and happiness, which is one of my favorite topics.
Really? Okay.
It really is. I'm big on employee culture and happiness. I'm surprised that you're surprised. You sounded like you were surprised by that, which I don't particularly appreciate. Because
I'm not surprised.
That's my whole life.
That's your whole shtick.
I have a handbook. Have you read my handbook on employee culture and happiness?
No, we should read it right now.
Yeah. No, I don't have a handbook.
Could be like an audiobook.
Yeah. One of these days it'll be an audiobook. No, but that was something you wanted to talk about, was employee culture and happiness. So
yeah, I think in today's age, when we're here in Minnesota, the unemployment rate is 2% or something like that. It's crazy, like crazy low.
Yeah.
As an employer, you have to go the extra mile to retain your employees, right?
You have no choice. So is this just a pragmatic? Is this just a pragmatic thing? Listen, if the unemployment rate were higher, we wouldn't care about this at all. But because it's so low, we got to bite the bullet and be nice to people.
That is a great way to look at it. I will answer that in full transparency that you should not take unemployment rate into account. And the reason is, what does it cost to rehire the next person? The 2% is a hard wall for an employer to get over because there's simply not anybody you can hire, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say it's 10%. You get really sloppy in your hiring. You're like, oh, we'll hire people and blah, blah, blah. And if they leave, who cares? Just because we can hire more people.
Yeah.
But does that mean because you've hired somebody new, that person is going to just hit the ground running? Like even in the programming world, developers could be the only one of the developers theoretically could be the fastest onboarding person you could have, because hopefully your project is detailed well and they can come in and they just look at the requirements. They're already qualified. They could start working right away. There's still going to be a week or two of
point them at some tasks and have them like jump right in theory.
Yeah, theoretically they're going to have to learn a little bit, but let's just say you have 2 weeks or a month to get them up and running. Okay, well, let's just say in the U.S., developers make whatever. We'll use a round number, $100,000 a year. What does that then cost you? That's $8,000 that you have to pay that 1 month of trying to get everybody up and running, onboarding, all those other things.
Yeah,
so
it's a lot of money.
I think that 2% unemployment rate is a wake-up call to employers who haven't been big on employee culture and should be working on that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. No, and yeah, I was just kidding. It's easy for me to joke about these things because I don't have any employees, and then I give you a heart. You actually have responsibilities over there, so I'm busting your chops. But
I appreciate that question, and I believe that is a completely fair question to ask any employer.
I think it's a factor for sure. It doesn't change like what's the right thing to do, but it is a factor. But so you've been in the working world for a long time, since the dawn. So what are some things that are top of mind for you as far as like employee culture, keep
I
people happy.
I think that time off is certainly a big one. Having well planned and thought out, like for a developer, right? A developer wants to have a project manager that is going to help them be better developers. They don't want help technically, but they need help
They just want things to
organizing.
be organized. They just want
Right.
like requirements not to change, things to be straight. Like, tell me what I need to do. I can do it. It's not going to change 16 times, and then I can get it done.
Yeah, they want them to run interference. They don't want the client talking to them directly.
Yeah.
They hopefully the project manager can handle all that. So
Yeah.
from an employee happiness standpoint, we want to encourage that and support that.
Yeah.
All those pieces as you come down the whole pipeline of getting work done.
That's really good, actually, because there's so many different, you could talk about benefits and perks, but I really think the core of what a developer cares about is exactly that. Make the work itself clean to whatever extent. In the real world, things are going to change. Requirements are going to be fuzzy and stuff like that. But as much as possible, make the process of getting work done, the project management structure, like straightforward. I think also probably you want to work on challenging stuff, interesting stuff too. That's also obviously going to be a big component. But like the work itself, improve the work itself as opposed to all the things around it that are important, are nice to haves, but they're not really the core of what your job is about.
Yeah, this whole discussion would be better for a panel if we had, say, 4 or 5 employers that like to just talk about what is it that they, or even employees like are just regular developers. No developers are regular. They're all extraordinary. Find 4 extraordinary developers, which are every developer, and ask them what makes them happy. You're probably going to get 4 different answers, right? Some of them want to get paid. Some of them would like lots of time off. Some of them like flexibility in their schedule. There's all kinds of things.
Vary.
It is going to be varied. It is a complicated task, but that culture that any company embodies would have people that have been there for a long amount of time, and they would be the ones driving this culture. The ones that like the culture, so maybe it is about time off or flexibility, those are the ones that are going to stick around. And if somebody doesn't care about some of those other things and all they want to do is make the biggest money, then that's where you see developers jumping around agency. And again, I don't want to make it sound too general, like just because somebody goes from one agency to the other because they make more money doesn't mean they're jumping because of the money. There's all kinds of reasons. I don't want to generalize it, but it's just an example of the different parts of that encompass that whole idea of employee happiness.
I think of the dev teams that felt the strongest are where there's this combination of you enjoy working with your peers, you respect them, they help you and also challenge you. So if you have a problem, you can get feedback, get help, get support. The work is interesting. You have high level of autonomy or ownership of what you're doing. There's not a lot of red tape and nonsense, and then you get paid well. That's
all those things,
hurts.
Right?
Yeah, but you're an employee, right? Are you technically an employee?
Yes, I am.
Are you happy? That's good.
Yeah, I think part of that is autonomy. You want to give people a degree of autonomy to be able. You want to give them space to make some of their own decisions.
Yeah,
so
that's huge. Yeah.
I think one thing that's always important is knowing what is that space, and then how does creativity go into that space. As an employer, you want to recognize that people need some of that space, right? And if you're demanding so much time out of it, what is an acceptable amount of time for either creative growth or personal growth or educational growth?
Yeah, because like I remember this one dev team I was on, and we were working on a new project. It was interesting, it was fun, it was exciting, and then certain people were building certain components of it. And when you talk about like creativity and stuff, like they were taking some very creative approaches to the architecture of how to build this thing. And we would talk about it and be like, oh yeah, it's gonna work like this, and it's gonna be super extensible, and the code's gonna be so clean. And you could tell they were super excited about it from like a creativity standpoint, and it sounded cool, it sounded great. But then a day turns into a week, turns into 2 weeks, and it's like the thing isn't getting done. And it's like, oh yeah, and they show you all the stuff, and then they have a good explanation for why it's not done. It's, oh, I got to do this, and then I got to refactor it, and they're all good reasons. And then sometimes people just get caught in like a loop of things can be complicated. And so that's the flip side of it, is if you're too creative, like you got to get stuff done. Like you got to get things out the door.
Yeah, in the development world, there's always a push and pull between the developer who is a perfectionist and the developer who's just a get stuff done developer. And I in a past life, I did development work. I would never say I was a developer, a very good one anyways. And I was a get stuff done person, because especially if you're a single contractor, or you are the only person accountable to that customer, and so you're just trying to get as much stuff done as you possibly can. I think another good role for a project manager is to be that person who can say, this task actually takes this long, and to do it right, it's going to take that long. And the only way to get around doing it right is doing it wrong.
Right? The only way to get around.
The only way to not do it right is to not do it. You can say it in so many words, but if you want it done faster, you're going to have to take some shortcuts, and chances are it's not going to be right. Like, you're not going to write your unit tests, or you're not going to do QA on it, or you're going to skip over a bunch of functions or whatever it is. So there's just things you can do to cut corners.
And then that's the problem. Like, I'm a get stuff done developer, and I can move pretty quickly, but I'm not like the perfectionist. And then the downside to that, of course, is that down the road you realize there's technical debt, there's limitations to what you built that really can start to compound over time. And I really should have taken a little extra time and done it but there's really no such thing as doing it. You want to do it as best as you can, and then improve on that. And this is why somebody that's been coding for 10 years is so much more efficient. Somebody's been doing it for a year, because they've gone through enough of those cycles that they can see the problems ahead of them and then fix them from the get-go.
Yeah. Well, so you had some other topics you wanted to go over.
I did have some other topics.
Let's jump into them.
Let's talk about exercise, man, because you're a big exercise guy. And what have you been doing to exercise? What do you do, man? You do a lot of stuff. You do cross-country skiing. You do all sorts of stuff. What's your latest deal?
My goal is not to do cross-country skiing, because I'm very tired of the cold weather, although I do enjoy it when I do it.
Yeah.
And it is super fun.
Yeah.
But it's also cold enough to walk on a lake.
Yeah.
And in order for the ice to be thick enough for you to walk on, it has to be cold for a sustained amount of time.
Wait,
just the opposite of being 100 degrees for 13 days in Austin is the opposite of that, is to be below freezing for a month, so the lake is a foot thick. Anyways. Yeah, so right now I'm running and I'm biking and I'm swimming. I'm doing a little yoga.
Oh, nice. When did you start the yoga?
I had a pretty significant injury back in February that sidelined me for my running. And I think stretching is one of those things that I just have to do. And so yoga has been a good thing. I was doing it every day, but I've cut it down to a couple times a day just for flexibility. As a runner, you become very inflexible.
Yeah. Oh, do you?
Doing the same thing all the time. So your hips are super tight. And
interesting. How did you injure yourself?
Running on the ice. If you can think about, and I'm writing an article about it right now. I wanted to detail my injury. There's a Icelandic horse that has very tiny little steps. Lots of tiny steps, right? Lots of cadence, you call it. When we run in Minnesota, because we're running on snow and ice, and you change the way you run, and that then changes.
Like smaller steps, I think?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a bad thing, but if you go from running in a warm place, I'm not embarrassed to say that I spent most of my November and December in Hawaii, which was warm.
Nice.
And I came back at Christmas and went immediately to Fargo, and it was like go from 80 degrees to minus 10 and go running. And I was in a running streak, so I had to run every day, and I hate running on a treadmill.
Why didn't you stay out there longer? Why didn't you stay out in Hawaii longer?
Christmas. We have family. We celebrate some of these holidays, and we have family that for whatever reason, they like to have us around. I don't know. Yeah.
So just repeated stress? Just a repeated stress thing of running in a little bit of a funny way?
Yeah, and then I think my body reacts better to cold weather, like the cardiovascular part, so I feel like I can run a lot harder, and I do. and it just makes it worse because your muscles are super tight because of the cold weather. Anyways, I ended up with a very bad glute injury. I had a running streak going. I had 683 days of running straight before I stopped.
Wow.
And
so you really wanted to keep that streak going.
I really wanted to, and I was on a treadmill, and I was holding myself up with my arms, just trying to let my legs dangle until that 1 mile thing clicked around, and I'm like, this is so stupid. I'm not really running a mile. I'm barely touching the treadmill. I might as well just call it quits. And and I had to heal. Yeah, so it took a while. I did a lot of stretching, a lot of trips to the PT.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I started feeling better, and then immediately, because of all the different pieces, I have IT band problems and tightness, IT band. I'm about 99% now.
Oh, that's great. How long did you have to stop running for?
I stopped for about 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's frustrating when you're doing something and then you have to stop because that becomes your whole routine and you start to depend on it and stuff. And then if you have to stop, it just sucks.
Yeah, so now I've started doing open water swimming. And believe it or not, our open water swim club starts June 14th.
Okay.
June 14th. That's when the lakes are pretty much warm enough to swim in. The water was still 69 degrees on June 14th.
Right. Yeah, that's chilly.
By August, they're going to be 80 because it's so hot here in the summer.
Do you ever do ice baths or cold
I've done
plunges?
ice baths, yeah.
Okay. I've been wanting to I keep hearing about the benefits of, I do sauna and stuff, but I keep hearing about the benefits of ice baths. So I want to do that, but I got to buy a bag of ice or something like that and just put it in the bathtub or something.
I think Philip does ice baths.
Does
good
it
after a really long run.
Oh, okay. Yeah. A lot of the people I follow on social media related to gym and workout stuff talk about them, and I got to get that going. Yeah. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to tell you my last thing. You asked me what I'm doing. And I have one more thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm biking.
Okay.
So I swim, I bike, and I run. That's what I pretty much do now. And yoga.
Nice. And yoga.
I did my first triathlon last weekend, and
no way.
That's
your
it.
Your first try, because before you were just more pure running, and then now you
for this year.
Okay.
I did a bunch last year too. Anyways, that's it. So what are you doing? Tell me what you're doing. My first for this year because it's so cold here.
Okay.
We don't
it's
do
your first
triathlons
triathlon this year, but you've done triathlons in the past.
Right. Yes.
Okay. You've done a ton of them.
No, I wouldn't say a ton, but I've done.
You've done a handful. I've done
Yep.
solid.
And I'm a terrible swimmer.
Yeah, you look like a terrible swimmer.
Yes, that's what everybody says too.
Do you, when it comes to exercise, do you do the things because they're beneficial for you, or do you just do the stuff? Have you gotten to the point where you just do it because you enjoy doing it? Like you do the running because you enjoy running. You don't do it because it helps you to be healthier, or is it a mix of the two?
Yeah, I think I am doing it because I absolutely enjoy it. I'm trying to enjoy swimming more.
Swimming is so boring. I've tried to do the swimming thing, but I can't do it. I just lose my mind. I get too bored doing it.
They have headphones you can wear while you're swimming, but I do mainly open water swimming. So in Minnesota here, it's supported. So there's buoys and they have lifeguards on paddle boards.
Oh, that's real
cool. I swim with the swim buoy, so I feel pretty safe. And you have a goal. You go 400 yards, come back 400 yards, do a big circle or whatever it is.
That's kind of epic. Dude, when I'm in Costa Rica, like surfing, you'll, first of all, like just being on a surfboard and paddling is so tiring. And you'll just going from A to B, you'll be exhausted. But then, of course, you just lay on the surfboard and chill out. And you'll see dudes open water swimming in the ocean, and you will just see a guy just go out as far as you can see, like he's practically out past the horizon, just swimming. No support, nothing. Not even, sometimes they don't even have a buoy or anything like that. I don't know what these people are thinking. It's insane. But
yeah, there's people that swim miles and miles. I was talking to a guy last night who is in a swim club, and he met a lady that is there's a swim you can do across the English Channel, which is like 26 or 30 miles or whatever. You get out, you stamp your passport, and you swim back.
That's funny.
So it's like a 50-mile or 60-mile swim.
That's funny.
That's not going to be me. I'm not going to do that.
You're not going to do all that. Let me grab another water real quick. Hold on. I'll be right back.
This episode of Kalen Talks is sponsored by Protein Cricket Bars. Protein Cricket Bars bring you crickets and protein in a nice condensed package.
Dude, let's start a Protein Cricket Bar brand. How cool would that be?
There's probably one that exists, and we could be the spokesperson.
That's true. By the way, I need to install an AC in the garage, but which is on my to-do list. So if you wonder why I'm sweating like a madman, that's the reason why. I'm in the
basement, and we don't have our AC right on. Our AC's not on right now, but it was on last week, and it was like 90. It was 96 here, and it was 64 degrees in my basement because all the
that's not bad.
The AC drops.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
but yeah, I feel like I recently got an electric skateboard because I think it's a lot of fun, and I feel like I've been on a path of doing exercise because you have to. You want to get in better shape. You want to get healthier. And then gradually you start to find the things you really love to do, and then eventually you just do the stuff because that's ultimately where you want to get to, where you just do the stuff that you love to do, and it's not you would do it even if it didn't make. It's not about the getting healthier is like the byproduct. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get a high from running. There's nothing more fun than getting up as the sun is rising and having whatever amount of miles in front of you and just having this little adventure of running around and seeing things. Like when I travel, I always try to do some kind of extended long run, or I'd stay on a Saturday to do my long run. I think we were going to get together last spring. I was going to come to Austin for some event, and I had planned on staying an extra day, and that's when I got injured, so I had to cut that one short, but I had a 20-mile run planned in Austin, and I have a route all planned out, and I was super excited to kind of
that's a bummer.
Go see it's fun to see that. I've done the murals. There's all kinds of paintings, and there's a walking tour. I did 8 miles of just running around looking at all the great paintings on the sides of buildings in Austin. It's a great way to see a city. Yeah. I think it's especially fun. Did I say that right? It's especially because I said especially.
Some people say especially. I feel like that's
and that is that. The one thing I love to say to my wife is I love to say, "Hey, would you like to get an espresso?"
Yeah,
and she
that
said,
works
"You mean
too.
Espresso?" And I said, "No, I mean espresso."
She corrects you. No, that's not cool. Yeah, espresso. That's valid. Yeah, 100% valid. No, I'm jealous of people that are into running because it seems like a really cool way to, like you said, see a city. And I've tried to get into it, but I've just never, and like my joints drive me crazy, but I've tried. But that's how I feel about the skateboard now, it's a fun way to, like I've been exploring different parts of the city where I live in that I hadn't seen before, and it's a neat way to get around. Yeah, it's funny how when you're just driving, you just go through the same routes that wherever you're going, and you never really stop to smell the roses. Or
and did you get a one of those one wheel skateboards? Or
no, so I got it's called an Evolve. It's like an actual skateboard with 4 wheels. Huh? I did try the one wheel, and I rented it, and I have a buddy here nearby who's super into them, but I couldn't quite get it. Have you ridden a one wheel before?
No, but I have a friend who has one.
Okay, they seem really cool, but the problem is that you can fall on them a lot, and they do this nosedive thing.
That's exactly what he just broke his collarbone.
Are you for real?
Yep, he was going 20 miles an hour, and there's something with the battery.
The battery dies. Oh my gosh!
You're supposed to get a warning.
Yeah,
he put little wheels on the front and the back now, so if it does a nosedive, it can. But I still think if you're going to nosedive and you're going to dig in, you're just gonna. It's gonna. Yeah. You're not going to recover from it.
Yeah, it's scary. I watched a ton of videos on that, and I was really nervous about it and stuff like that. Apparently you learn how to feel when that's happening, and then you can avoid it. And those things the wheels are called fangs, the wheels that you put on the front, and then they make it so that if it does nosedive, it doesn't like hard dive, it gives you a little bit more
Right.
space or whatever. But yeah, I was just like, nah. And just riding it, it was just weird. I just more comfortable on the skateboard. But I'm super nervous about falling just off the skateboard because they go 15, 20 miles an hour and stuff like that. And
do you have a remote that you hold? Because I've
Yeah.
seen those electric skateboards, and I've
Yeah.
seen people holding a remote, and they're just
Yeah.
cruising.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a little remote. And actually, right after this, I'm going to go to this meetup, and I'm going to cruise around with some people.
An electric
around,
skateboard meetup?
Yeah, actually, it's a
Do they allow
one-wheel meetup.
bikers too or not? Oh,
I
it's a
think
one-wheel
any
meetup.
electronic transportation device, whatever they're called. But yeah, it's a one-wheel group, and then there's some people with skateboards too. But I'm going to be like the weird one because everybody else is going to have a one-wheel.
Susan and I went out and joined a new bike group on Wednesday night, and
Nice.
there was an A and B in biking, and so there's a 40 mile and a 25 mile. So we joined the slow 25 mile group, and I haven't actually ridden that far this year, and it was an A group for us anyways, but I was so tired.
That's a ride. Yeah, that's a 25 miles. That's a ride. For me, at least. If I ride 10 miles, I'm tired.
Yeah, you're going like 10 miles an hour, so that's pretty fast.
I get.
You don't even know how fast you're going.
I don't know how fast I'm going.
All right,
just know
so,
you're making fun of me, but I don't exactly know why.
So did you take, I want to come back to surfing because I took surfing lessons last year. Did
Oh,
you
man.
take lessons in Costa
Yes.
Rica?
Yeah, I went to a surf camp for a week, took lessons.
Whoa,
And
a
then-
week. Okay.
Yeah. And then shout out to Witches Rock. And then I just did it by myself for the rest of that month. And then we've gone back. This is going to be like our 4th time going there. We were there for 3.5 months last year total. And so we loved it. But that's kind of the thing with the skateboard is that I loved surfing so much. And I was like, we need to move here. I was talking to my wife about it. Then you realize it's a little more complicated than that when you have 3 kids and stuff. Even though we homeschool, kids have dance, they have music, they have their friends. You got to stay put. So
Yeah, I'm just going to put out a little shout out for Hawaii because the one thing that a lot of people don't realize about Hawaii is that it is a U.S. state. And getting a house
it now?
there is far easier than like Mexico or Costa Rica. And the other thing is, what? Go ahead.
Getting a house there is easier? Is that what you said?
Yeah, because it's a U.S. state. You can get a mortgage. I know you wouldn't need a mortgage, but people that would need
believe
one.
me, I would need a mortgage. But it's expensive there. It's
Your
crazy.
house is
It's crazy expensive.
It is expensive if you go there as a tourist and go out to eat every day. But if you're making your own food and you live in the local, it's
Not
not
as
that
bad.
much more expensive. They have a Costco, so that's all you
But
need.
the
right?
houses are expensive.
The houses are expensive, but they're smaller. You pay the same amount for a house, but it's not
Okay.
going to be what do you have, like 12 or 15,000 square feet in Austin? You're probably going to have to get, for the size of house you have, you're going to have to
Yeah.
you could settle for 2,500 square feet.
Yeah. No, yeah. If it's just the two of you and you're getting a small house, it's probably super doable.
A big house in Kona is 1,500 square feet.
Okay. Yeah.
And a big house for millions is going to be anything over 3,000 or 4,000.
So did you do some?
you-
So you did
you
some
can-
surfing out. You did some surfing out there in Hawaii.
Yeah, I only did one day of
Nice.
surf lessons,
Okay.
which now hearing that you said a week, that's probably
Yeah.
a really good idea. The mistake I made, and I went with my son, was he said paddle back as soon as you can. And so we would go out, do our little run, and then we're just, both Gavin and I are just whipping it to get back to the start. And you guys have never had anybody get back as fast as you guys get back. But what happened, I wasn't used to that motion, and I ended up bruising one of my ribs between the waves bouncing and me paddling so hard.
It's
I
so
bruised
painful.
a rib.
Dude, it's
And-
it's so painful.
I don't know if you've heard of persuasive kids. I have a very persuasive son. He said, "We got to go buy. Let's just go to Costco right now." I know they had surfboards. He's like, he talked me into going to Costco. We bought 2 surfboards.
So you
and
bought
then
the
every
surfboards.
single day we got to get out there. We got to get out there, which only makes your ribs hurt more.
So you kept going out.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many times did you go out total? Did you get the hang of it?
My son definitely got the hang of it. I would say because I was in such pain that I was never relaxed enough that time. But we were just back in May, and Susan and I went out and just paddled around, and it was so much easier once you're comfortable and not in pain.
Yeah, totally. I feel like that first week for me was like there's just balancing on the board was super hard. Like laying down balancing and paddling for me was like I was a wreck. I was like all over the place, and the rib pain and stuff like that, and then your arms are so sore. It's after that week, I feel like I started to get the hang of it, but. So
I'm not the only one that gets rib. That's good to know. I'm glad that you had all kinds of rib pain.
Yeah, I had so much. And then it's weird how the pain just starts to go away. Like I think your ribs get conditioned to it, and then I don't know. You probably figure out your technique a little better too, whatever. But it's fun.
You're from California originally, so was that part of your culture? Were you a surf kid?
No, I didn't grow up near the beach at all, but I was always into skating and rollerblading and stuff like that, and then snowboarding. So I picked it up relatively quickly. But yeah, it was a new thing. But it's pretty fun. Pretty fun. Man, are we at our time here? We're almost at our time. There was a couple other things on the list, but. I don't know. I feel like we had a solid sesh. Solid podcasts.
So I've got one of my favorite poets. It's called Love Poems for Married People.
Oh, wow. This is great.
Can I read a poem?
Oh, my gosh.
As we close it out?
Please.
All right. Yeah. And I got this book for Susan. So
this is going to be a joke.
They're real. It's Love Poems by John Kenny.
No world in which you're going to read a real poem right now.
Poems. Okay. Look at it. Says poems.
You found a poem that's going to somehow be a joke one way or another, but proceed.
We'll find out after I read it, right?
We'll find out real soon.
Title of the poem. Ready? Here we go. Are you in the mood? I am. Let's put the kids down. Let's have a light dinner. Shower. Maybe not drink too much. And do that thing I would rather do with you than anyone else. Lie in bed together and look at our iPhones.
That's so dumb.
It's a real poem.
It's a real poem?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's... Wow.
I find all of his poems completely hilarious. And
are they they're all funny?
If you think that's funny, I think it's hilarious.
But they're not like sincere love poems. So I was right.
Sincere love poems. This guy has to be Irish because the humor that comes out of it is very Irish.
Yeah, I like it. I've been thinking about actually trying to read some more poetry. I've been trying to read fiction. I can't read fiction though. It's so hard for me it just goes in one ear and out the other. Versus mostly I've just read like nonfiction books. And
I'm reading a fiction book. It's by Colm McDonald, and it's The Dead Man's Sins, and we'll have to put it in the show notes. It's completely hilarious. He's got all these... anyways.
Nice.
I am reading a fiction book.
Sorry, you cut out just a tiny bit. What was that book about?
It's called Dead Man's Sins. It's by Colm. It's Caimh. I know it's Irish. You should know how to say it because they often say it, but Colm McDonald. On Amazon. Caimh.
And what's it about?
It's a detective novel, let's say, but
nice.
Quite a bit of Irish humor in it.
Nice. I'm reading The Hobbit with my daughter.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which is fun. Yeah. It's pretty cool. She reads it to me and she understands it much better than I do.
Good.
She'll actually test me. She'll test my comprehension. She'll be like, "Did you understand that part, Dad?" And I'll be like, she'll have to explain it to me.
That's good. You have to read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, I think they've read that one.
Yeah. They were contemporaries, C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, I think there's some science fiction from C.S. Lewis, too. I've read when I was in college, I read a bunch of C.S. Lewis's books on Christianity and stuff like that.
Yeah, my favorite book is called The Great Divorce.
Yeah, I think I read that one.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's not about divorce.
Yeah, but anyways, he has some interesting science fiction, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brent Peterson, thanks so much. This has been a lot of fun. Where can people find all your content and links and web links?
If we're going to put this up, mine will be on talk-commerce.com.
Fantastic.
And I don't know what we're going to name this episode.
We'll figure something out. That's for darn sure. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. See you next time.
Thank you again for listening. My name is Brent Peterson, and it has been a pleasure to be your host today. Please sign up for our newsletter platforms at talk-commerce.com. Rate and subscribe to Talk Commerce wherever you download your podcasts. New shows out every week.